Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nativity Podcast. I am your co-host, Father Ed Bresnahan, parochial vicar here at Nativity Parish, and Burke. Join with me, as always, is...
your social media coordinator, Mary Castellano.
Oh my gosh, guys, we are so glad to be with you today on our amazing podcast. We are cruising through season 2, if you can believe it. And normally we try to make a point not to sort of like make it about a specific date or time of year. And part of that is because we don't know when you're going to be tuning in. Right. You know, it's a little weird to be like, Merry Christmas, and it's July when you tune in. You're like, doesn't feel like Christmas to me. So last year when we welcomed Father Bob onto the podcast, we brought him on, and we brought him on to talk about Christmas at Nativity. Right. So it obviously had a Christmas flavor. This year, for this season, we've got another situation where this is the case. We wanted to bring on our wonderful deacon in training. I say deacon in training. He's already a deacon. He's a priest in training. We have Deacon Peter Clem, and we're bringing him in on a special day because we all share something in common in addition to our love of our faith and our love of Nativity Parish, and that is we love Star Wars. And so we're broadcasting this episode. It will debut on May 4th, which happens to be Star Wars Day. So because May the 4th be with you.
And with your spirit.
There we go. So guys, we are so glad to welcome today Deacon Peter Clem.
Good to be here.
We always start with an icebreaker. We always start with kind of a question that kind of like goes through all of this. Kind of usually leads into the general discussion. I want to throw that out the window today. Just throw that icebreaker out the window because it's May 4th. And so really this is just that personal, joyful question that just has to do with a personal preference. So my question for you and Mary and myself is, if you could be in a Star Wars movie or a series, one of those series or episodes, or maybe you're having trouble, maybe just like a scene. If there's like one scene that you're like, no, I just want to be encased in carbonite. Like, I don't know. Any scene from any bit of the Star Wars universe, which movie would you pick, or which space in that place would you pick?
Ooh. Well, thank you again for having me. This is awesome. Something I love about Star Wars is, a lot of them, it's a ragtag group of people going on some kind of secret mission, like either to rescue Baby Yoda or to infiltrate a base to get the secret mission. Probably, around like the Rebel period, especially. So Star Wars Rebels is like an animated show, and I just love all these little cells of rebel groups around the galaxy, and they each are doing their own little thing, if you will. And so it would be really cool to be a part of like my own little rebel cell, and maybe there'd be like a Wookiee and a Jawa and an ex-stormtrooper and a Padawan who used to be a Jedi but now is not. Like, I don't know, just some kind of weird little group of people, and we're going on our own little missions to help do our part to take down the Empire. That would be really cool.
I love it. It's always missions like disrupting a supply line or like intercepting a gold transfer or something like that. And you'd be like out there on this rogue planet or something like that.
And there might be some, interaction with bounty hunters. And unfortunately, we have to team up with them sometimes, but we can't really trust them because they're probably going to stab us in the back at the end.
Right, exactly.
Like that.
I couldn't. They always say, like, you're never going to offer as much as the price on your head. It's always like a. They always say, like they could turn you in. It's always have some kind of guy that always has that. Mary, would you pick? Where would you be in this? Where would you be in the series in this scenario?
I would drop everything to become a Jedi. I would love to be a Jedi in, I don't know if it's called the Old Republic or just the Republic, but in the prequels. I love the idea of the community of the Jedi, their powers, their abilities. I would drop everything I know and love right now to become a Jedi. I think that would just be the coolest thing ever. But I would like to think that I would survive Order 66. I could be one of those Jedi.
That's a very hopeful thought.
It happens. We'll see a little more later on. But yeah, no, I would love to be a Jedi.
The 100%. Glory days of the Jedi.
The glory days, exactly.
What color would your lightsaber be?
I knew you were going to ask me that question, and I wasn't prepared. I want to say pink.
A pink lightsaber.
Like burgundy or magenta. Not quite purple, like Mace Windu. I don't know if there's an orange or a yellow one out there, but like my favorite color is burgundy. but not like evil Sith Lord. I'm like
Right.
making it.
I was like, yeah, that's kind of red,
Why
you
did
know?
you survive Order 66?
Undercover. We've got a rogue agent. That's amazing. Oh, what a plot twist.
Oh
Like,
wow.
underneath all of it, there's this other like person.
What about you, Father? What would you where would you fall in like the Star Wars universe?
It's so funny because like I was born right in between, like the year that I was born was the same year as The Empire Strikes Back came out, right? And I really just appreciate, and I'm with you on the idea of dropping everything to become a Jedi. As soon as I sort of like began to see my faith manifested in not only on my own life, but how you start to see fingerprints of your faith all over the world, I always sort of recognized that the Jedi felt like a religious order. Like it always seemed to me this idea of a group of people dedicated to living in community, dedicated to a particular charism, dedicated to virtues, right? And struggling. Like they're real people who struggle, right? They struggle to, make all these things work. So when you said I'd like to be a Jedi, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But maybe not like at the glory days of it, right? I think I really loved the idea of when the Jedi were just kind of scratching and clawing themselves back, where they had to, kind of figure things out. So maybe kind of at the end of the newest, the newest set of trilogy, because in the newest trilogy, you've got Rey who's learning to be a Jedi. You've got Luke who's trying to, kind of balance his past with this future, right? Will I train them? Will I not train them? Kind of like tying all those pieces together. And you kind of get a sense at the end of those movies, at the end of the episode 9, you kind of get a sense that like, they're getting ready to build something new. And so I think being there at the ground level of building something new is really special. I love the idea of kind of like being in on it and saying like, okay, yeah, dedicating, but like kind of off the pedestal and really like not taking nothing for granted and being able to say like, okay, this really resonates with me in the faith, just because a lot of people enter the faith now and a lot of things, like we're not in those sort of medieval glory days when everybody was Catholic. We're not in that sort of time period where it maybe was easy to be Catholic because your whole community was Catholic. And now in so many ways, when we practice our faith, you practice your faith, not like this sort of desperate, like clinging on, but with a lot of hope to be able to say, well, now I'm really building something and I can really show people what I believe and what I love. And people are sort of drawn to that in the sense of like, okay, well, what is it about it that lets you persevere through all of these difficulties, struggles, and some of the difficulties of the world? There's so much hope. And I think that's one of the best kind of themes of Star Wars. And I think it's one of the best themes of Catholicism. One of the best themes of our faith is that hope.
I love it. I love how you talk about new beginnings, because that transitions very well into what we're gonna be talking about today. So Deacon Peter, we are 1 month away from what major event in your life?
So June 4th, I'll be ordained a priest by Bishop Burbage at St. Thomas More Cathedral in Arlington, Virginia.
And so how do you feel? You're 1 month away. How are you feeling?
Pretty exciting. So I finished seminary and I have a couple of things. I'll go on a silent retreat right before ordination, which is great, just time to be quiet with the Lord. And
is that normal? Okay?
That's a standard. Before every ordination, every priest or every deacon is supposed to go on a 5-day silent retreat. But for Arlington, we do it literally the week before.
Wow.
I'll leave the retreat and go straight to the bishop's residence for dinner and rehearsal.
Wow.
Which is pretty exciting. So no, it's very exciting right now. Finishing up seminary after 6 years of formation, lots of philosophy and theology classes. I just had practicums, practicing mass, practicing hearing confessions.
And where do you go to seminary?
Mount St. Mary's University and Seminary in Emmitsburg, Maryland. It was about an hour and a half north of Nativity. So for this past year, I've been coming back every weekend to Nativity while I've been at seminary, in between classes and papers and stuff.
Yeah, and we really loved having you. We really loved having you help serve at our masses. And last summer, you were with us a lot more, kind of doing a lot more stuff with our youth, with our young adults.
And really kind of getting to know the parish. I think you spent quite a lot of time kind of getting to know different people in the parish, having kind of those different conversations?
Yeah, Father Bob has been great, just getting me plugged into a lot of different ministries and giving me suggestions of how to get involved. And the staff here has been so welcoming, and so I've been able to help out at lots of different things. Go on date nights with the Marriage Enrichment Ministry, which had a funny story with that. I didn't have a date, but it was great to be at those and be able to visit the high schoolers' Sunday Night Life teen, or to watch The Chosen with some young adults, helping out with different funerals and helping out with doing baptisms. There's been so many exciting ministry opportunities beyond just being present at Mass. And that's been a grace as well. Father Bob has always let me preach, which is nice to preach.
And so this past year, this was your pastoral year. Is that what that's called? And that's what every transitional deacon does, right?
It's not necessarily called a pastoral year. There are some guys that take a whole year away from seminary. They're not doing any studies, and they're just doing pastoral work. For me, this transitional deacon year, I was doing classes as well as being at the parish on the weekends and on breaks.
How do you balance that? Because I know that's obviously, I mean, I went through this too, but I always like to hear the fresh perspective of this. But like, how do you balance the kind of thing where it's like, okay, I put my whole heart and soul into ministry, and I still have to actually work pretty hard to get some good grades. I'm still kind of in a school part of this.
Yeah, and the Mount was very gracious with its grading in these last couple months. No, it definitely needed to be focused and be all in wherever I was. And so when I was at the parish, it was about giving as much as I could. And so I wasn't bringing any homework with me when I came on the weekends, because the point of being here is to be here, to be with the people. And so I couldn't be focused on my schoolwork. So I had Fridays off to be able to get stuff in line, either A, to prepare for the weekend, or B, to do homework in anticipation of Monday. So I was trying to balance that stuff with that day off on Friday was really helpful. And then when I'm at the seminary as well, to be all in, beyond just classes, but being present to my brother seminarians and being, example in the house, because the deacons we're the head of the food chain, if you will. And so the younger new guys are looking to the deacons. How do we do seminary?
It really does have the high school vibe, doesn't it? With like the seniors.
I don't know. I've never been.
The deacons are like wow, those are the guys who are almost there.
And the guys who have seniors, there's senioritis. But deacons, they have deaconitis. So that has been something I've had to struggle and fight against. And the way that I've done it personally is to focus on the people, especially, that these young new seminarians, I need to be an example to them. And then also to the people in the parish, to be that joyful presence to them as a new vocation in the diocese. And so to focus on the people has helped me get through the nitty-gritty work that I've needed to get done.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us just a brief overview of some of the classes that you have to take? You don't have to list every single one, but just for anybody who's just really not familiar with seminary, or what kind of classes would you take to prepare for priesthood?
Sure. The first 2 years are philosophy. And so you're taking a lot of classics, learning about Aristotle and Aquinas. You're going through just how to think. And really having a good foundation of thought process, if you will. There's also included in those first 2 years a lot of language, doing Greek, Latin. Sometimes guys do Spanish as well to make sure they're prepared for Spanish ministry. Theology classes, you're going to have classes of church history, scripture, moral classes that are focused on specific teachings in the church. So a class on the Eucharist, a class on Christ, a class on the Trinity, a class on sacraments of healing. And then there's also practicum classes. So I had homiletics, where I would practice giving homilies, and I had mass practicum, and I would have confession practicum. A whole wide range of classes. It's a full master's program, 15 to 18 credits every semester.
Mm-hmm.
Any particular class that was I'm so grateful that my seminary got me to do this one class, or several classes?
I really loved the scripture classes. I majored in scripture, and so I got a second degree in theology with a concentration in scripture. So I took extra scripture classes, and there was a class I took last semester, which is really great to go into priesthood, which was on the letter to the Hebrews. And the letter to the Hebrews is all about sacrifice and the sacrifice of Christ that he made, and that sacrifice is one of a priest, and it's the priesthood of Jesus Christ that we're ordained into. It's one sacrifice that's offered, not many little individual sacrifices that Father Bresnahan does his sacrifice and I do my sacrifice. No, we're all offering the one sacrifice of the Mass in the name of Jesus Christ. And so it was a beautiful class to have especially in this year preparing for priesthood, so close to ordination.
I felt when I was taking the classes that, like, you know, I mean, I had a background in philosophy anyway, but like the philosophy classes felt very abstract. But as you got closer to priesthood, those classes became more concrete. And sort of as you get closer, you're not just like studying kind of basics of scripture, you're starting to really go in depth. Mm-hmm. And as you go in depth in the scripture, as you go in depth into moral theology and like living, as you start taking a class on the sacrament of the priesthood and those kinds of things, things just seem to become a little bit more like real.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it all really starting to feel real? Is it anxiety provoking? Is it exciting?
It's very exciting. There's definitely a whole range of emotions. Two phrases I always like to hold on to are terrifying peace and joyful exhaustion.
Okay.
That these words that kind of could contrast each other. Like, it's terrifying to think that I'm going to be hearing people's confessions, but there's also like a great peace. Like, this is what God has called me to, and it brings me so much joy. It exhausts me because there's so much work to be done, but at the end of the day, there's peace and joy, even in the midst of terror and exhaustion.
I think that the one about confession is so interesting. I think I've heard it from you, Father Bresnahan, and from a few others, where they say hearing confessions is one of their favorite things about being a priest, which is bizarre to me as a layperson. I like, don't tell me your stuff. Like, I don't want to know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but we don't like confession because we want to hear what everybody did.
Right, of course.
No, it's probably one of the things I'm most looking forward to, because you have the opportunity to be that person who welcomes someone back, who might, maybe it's been a long time. And you have the privilege of being on the other side of welcoming that person back with joy and with hope.
And for no other reason than you just happen to be the one that they went to go see.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the other thing. It's not like people like seek you out going like, you know what? I really need this person's insight. No, it's this person who's like, I've been away from the church. I should go to confession. And then they creak open a box, and sure enough, you're there.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's
just
kind of
me.
humbling.
It is. It's so humbling.
So
that's a really good way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does the whole process of seminary feel humbling to you? Now you're about to come out.
Or even do you feel prepared?
I was talking to some younger priests who are recently ordained, and they're like, you'll never be prepared. I mean, there's just no way to, you can take all the classes in the world, but every single person has their own individual situation that they're going through, and to walk with them, there's no practicum to walk with people. And even with the sacraments, with like the anointing of the sick, like I know the rite, I know how to anoint someone, but I'm walking into the situation, who is this family? Is there like 50 people in the room, or is there just one other person? Is there no other person in the room? Every situation is going to be so different. Is it a hospital? Is it a nursing home? Is it in someone's actual home? Is it on the side of the road? Like, there's no practicum to really account for all those situations. At the same time, I feel very prepared. Like, I know how to say the Mass, and the Mass doesn't change. I mean, there's different prayers within every single Mass, but the Mass at its core, this is my body, this is my blood. I'm going to say those same words every day. It's going to work, because by God's grace it does.
Right.
And trusting in that. So I feel very prepared, and at the same time, no, not at all.
And I also feel like, I mean, every community is different too. I mean, even just communities within our own diocese.
Oh, sure.
Every church has a bit of a different flavor. Like you said, every individual is different. Every parish community is different. The needs are different. Different flavors.
And at the same time, the teaching of the church stays the same no matter what parish I go to. So there's also a confidence of that.
Sure.
So. Yeah.
Isn't it fascinating just to know that God in his infinite wisdom knows exactly where you're going to be in a couple of months?
So does the bishop.
Maybe. The bishop may not know that yet. Hopefully by the time this airs, the bishop will know, right? That would be the thing. But even if it's not even in the mind of the bishop yet, the Lord knows.
Exactly.
Right?
He's brought me along this far, and it's worked out well, so.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've learned in particular from Nativity? So you've been here for about a year, like you said. You're with us for a few months in the summer, and then kind of here and about over the weekends. Do you have any takeaways from your time with us?
This is a parish that is just so generous. People who are just very giving. And I'm not talking like money, which I think is very true for this parish, but people with their time and how giving they are with their efforts to serve other people, to serve the church. It's incredible how many ministries are here, and I've like had little tastes here and there, and to see like, oh, I recognize you from that other ministry, and people who are involved in multiple things, not just one thing. And people who are supporting each other. I've always loved the staff here, and how yeah, no, it's not just pandering the two of you.
Totally.
All of the staff here are fantastic, and just how everyone is, we're all on the same side. We're all striving for the same goals of bringing people closer to Christ.
That's actually a huge mantra, especially I think since the pandemic, of like us within the parish offices. And I mean, we say it to each other often. It's like we're all on the same team. We'll like sometimes end a conversation like talking about different ministries, or like I'll be having a conversation with Jen, our director of marriage enrichment ministry, or Allison or Rebecca, and we each have kind of our own different things, different departments, but at the end of the day, we all are on the same team.
Yeah.
We're all on Father Bob's team.
So I don't know if it's like a takeaway that I could necessarily, hopefully will be able to bring to whatever parish I go to, is to make sure that I'm connecting with the different ministries and not just focusing on one ministry. And if those ministries aren't connected, maybe I could be a bridge to help bridge those ministries together.
Yeah.
That would be really awesome.
Yeah,
Makes
no,
perfect
that
sense.
would be great.
And maybe it's already happening wherever I'm going, and that'd be great. I can just kind of slide right in, and it'll be,
It's funny you say that, because since the pandemic, I think we as a staff, I know among the priests, I point to you as if you were here. You weren't here during the beginning of the pandemic, but we did start doing kind of more bonding things as a staff, because we really needed to just have fun together. And so we would, sometimes watch movies together. We still eat together. And sometimes some of the ladies here in the office and we've kind of reflected on those moments and saying, I really hope that whatever we're doing here does influence the new guys who are coming in, whether it's our summer seminarian, transitional deacon, new priest who's going to be transferred. We hope that they kind of take some of these things, some of these positive qualities, these good things with them to whatever their new community will be. So yeah, I'm glad that that's one of your takeaways.
All right. So like, this is the best part, right? So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm just absorbing all of this. It was just so many good things. And I'm like, yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the best parts about our staff is that our staff eats lunch together. Like just our staff eats lunch together.
I love that.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. If you are a parish person in the especially in the Diocese of Arlington, or if you're listening from a different diocese, I highly recommend eat lunch together as a staff. It's so foundational, fundamental to us working together. It makes our communication better. We're like a family.
And it kind of like releases a little bit of that tension, because it's something that everybody starts looking forward to. They all start saying like, oh, okay, so it kind of eases that moment of like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm just sitting in my office, just kind of, it just kind of gives you that actual pause to be intentional about saying, hey, putting work down for a minute, actually picking up the community part of it. Yeah. Okay, but like that might be one thing to look forward to, but look, ordination is huge. The day is going to be fantastic. The day is going to be incredible for you. But I guess the question that I want to ask you is like, all right, so both kind of in a future sense and also day of, what are you looking forward to? What are some of the things that you're looking forward to regarding ordination? Both the day and receiving the sacrament, and then also looking forward to life as a priest.
Oh gosh, there's so many things.
I know, right? That's why
I'll try to just blitz through a lot of them.
Good, go for it.
For diaconate ordinations, the most powerful moment for me was laying face down on the altar and having the Litany of Saints be sung. Just a really striking moment where the priest or deacon lays prostrate, and all of your family and friends are kneeling and praying for you, and all of the saints asking for their intercession, and you get to pick some of those saints. I've picked St. John Bosco and St. Ignatius of Loyola, and personal other saint who's already in the litany, St. Francis of Assisi. Those three are the patron saints of youth apostles that community I'm a part of. It's just this very humbling moment, and it's overwhelming to think of all of these people who are basically cheering you on in this vocation that you are striving to undertake. And then after that moment, you get up, and the bishop says the prayer of ordination, and then he lays his hands on you. You're in the moment. So I'm really excited for that moment. Just after ordination, usually you get to give first blessings, and I am very excited to give first blessings to family members and friends. But in particular, hopefully somebody will pull me away, and I'll get to hear my first confession at some point on Saturday. If not, maybe Sunday. Hopefully I'm not that terrifying of a person that they have to wait a couple weeks until like it's at the parish. But I am really excited to hear confessions. I think that's probably the thing I'm most looking forward to. In the aftermath of ordinations and First Mass, the day after my First Mass, I'm leaving for the Holy Land, and I'll be going with my family and friends for a 10-day pilgrimage. And when you go to the Holy Land, you celebrate the masses that are at that site. So I'll get to have my first Christmas, my first Easter.
All in 10 days.
All in 10 days.
Wow.
And I'm really looking forward to having that be a place to celebrate my first masses and to offer those.
The thing that struck me when I was saying Mass in the Holy Land was that the readings always focused on where you were. So like the word would change. Like in Cana, you read from John chapter 2. And as you're reading from John chapter 2, it says there was a wedding feast at Cana. But when you're in Cana, it says there's a wedding feast here in Cana. And so they throw this extra word in there. And that word makes all the difference, right?
When you pray the Angelus in Nazareth, in literally right outside of the house where Mary lived.
Right.
Instead of saying, and the word became flesh, you say, here the word became flesh.
Yep.
Like, this is the
powerful.
moment.
Yeah, this is the place. This is where this happened. It's so good.
There's some sites
Chills.
that it's like, yeah, it was around this area. You know, there's
Yeah, right.
But there's
right.
some that are no. This is the spot.
Yep.
Like you
Yeah.
can touch the actual spot where the cross was.
Yeah.
That's it.
You can. I hope you get the opportunity to celebrate Mass in the tomb.
I do.
You're going to be one of those people. You have the reserve. Perfect.
Yeah.
So like when you're in the tomb, you get 30 minutes. Normally, they only give you a few minutes to go in, pray, get out, let the next group come in. But when you are saying the Mass, you have 30 minutes. They close the door and you have 30 whole minutes. And so it's just you and the people you're with. And you say Mass in that 30 minutes. And if you say it in relatively quick amount of time, the rest of the time, you and everybody else just has like a private, intimate moment where you get to spend that time with Jesus in the tomb.
And the altar is the
altar is the tomb.
Is the tomb.
Like it's right there on the rock where So you're gonna have a fantastic time.
And with family and friends, it's very very intimate. And
a huge thing to look forward to.
Yeah.
And so this trip to Jerusalem, is that something that every newly ordained priest gets to do?
No, this was totally on me.
Okay.
I had the privilege of going to the Holy Land when I was in college, and I'm actually going back with the same priest who led that pilgrimage.
Okay.
And so we'll pull straws about who gets to celebrate Mass as the principal celebrant. But this is something I've always desired to do, that this would be the place where my first Masses is where Jesus walked. So
that's amazing.
I just think it's funny because you
picked
picked St. Ignatius of Loyola, and St. Ignatius of Loyola spent a year before he made his first Mass.
Well, he wanted to do it in the Holy Land.
Exactly.
But he didn't. Unfortunately, he didn't make it to the Holy Land. He did it in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And then St. Francis of Assisi also had a great love for the Holy Land. That's why a lot of the shrines there are preserved by the Franciscans.
That makes a lot of sense.
But obviously, Francis never became a priest, so he didn't celebrate Masses there. But he did make it there and on pilgrimage. So no, I hope that this trip still happens. As of right now, it still is. So
we'll be praying for you.
yes,
That's fantastic. So,
oh man, Father, do you have any advice to give Deacon Peter before he becomes Father Peter?
ooh, I wish you all could see the smirk that I just gave him. Just like, yes, lots of advice. I think there are probably two things, and especially for folks that are listening and listening to kind of what's going on, I think I would probably just say listen, right, is a really good thing. I think one of the things in our world that we don't hear enough of is that, listen to your people. Right. Listen, it doesn't mean that you have to do everything that they say and just kind of follow kind of blindly. Obviously, you want to teach them the faith. But a lot of times I think the impression that a lot of people get from their church is that the priest is trying to simply impose. Right. The priest is simply saying like, oh, I know so much more. And and you may be more educated than so many people that come to talk to you or something like that. But being able to like listen to them first and being able to make sure, because that conversation, allowing somebody to be able to say, okay, I'm heard by my priest and I'm seen by my priest, and then I trust my priest, and then my priest is shepherding me, and like kind of that progression. So listening to your flock. And I think the other thing too is that there's always going to be another temptation. And I don't just mean like temptation to sin. I mean, there's always going to be another good thing to do. Always going to be another good thing to do. So one of the biggest struggles is balancing all the really good things to do, right? And being able to balance all the really good things to do, it becomes very hard to do the ordinary things that you're supposed to do. if that makes sense. The opportunity for some extra great thing. Oh, Father, could you do this amazing thing? Could you come with us on this amazing experience? Could you do this? You know, and then being able to also say that also my primary love is sometimes just doing the ordinary thing in the ordinary parish where I'm ordinarily assigned. And there's a beauty to being able to do both of those things, the luxury in some ways of being asked to do something very special, and then also the real grace that comes from just being able to serve the flock that's been entrusted to your care. So I know that seems kind of obvious. Those would be the two things that I would say, like,
oh, thank you.
I don't want to say that I perfected them. I'm still working on them. But I remember very vividly as a brand newly ordained priest, and everybody was like, we want to get you on this, right? So it was like, oh, Father, can you be the spiritual director of this group? And I'm like, I love that group. Oh, Father, can you come to this, new diocesan thing? We'd love to have you. Well, I'd love to be part of the diocese. And it was just always something new to do. And then I was like, wait, I'm in Fredericksburg. I need to be here at my parish. And these people are the ones that need me, right?
Well,
so,
thank you for listening to me on this podcast that you do here at your parish.
Yes,
ordinarily.
exactly. So true.
How many years have you been a priest again? 11?
Yeah, I'm going to hit my 12th anniversary this year. I can't believe
really?
it. Yeah, 12 years I've been a priest.
Wow.
So, and we've literally known each other for like 9 of those years. I think
Yeah,
I was
a
probably
lot of
3 years ordained a priest when I first met you, which is really funny to think, kind of all the way from the beginning. Well, I would say this, Mary, like, I know that, like, I can sit here and talk about, let me tell you about all the things about priesthood. None of them are going to be a matter because your experience is going to be, like, totally different, which is great. But the parish always wants to, like, share. And so actually, as a wonderful member of our lay folk, Mary, what kind of advice would you give to our soon to be newly ordained priest?
So I have kind of two things. One, I just thought of right now, Father, as you were speaking. One is, as a friend, take care of yourself. Father's kind of touching on balance. And I personally, as someone who just works in a church as a layperson, find it hard to balance. As a priest, I have no idea how you all do that. So just take care of yourself. I don't know if anyone's told you, self-care, get enough sleep, like, you will
never get enough sleep. That's not true.
Yeah, just
Seminary
I don't know.
taught me that.
just as a personal note, of friend to friend. For those of you listening, you probably don't know, but I actually shared an office. I still technically share an office with Deacon Peter, and very grateful for the time that Deacon and I have gotten to know each other over this summer of 2021. But so just first of all, just remember to take care of yourself. Anytime you come by here, the ladies and I will always be checking in, like, how are you doing? Like, are you doing okay? Are you taking care of yourself?
So good.
So that'll be our first question. And number two, as a person in the pews, I really relate to when the priest relates to you. Just always try to relate to whoever's in your audience. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
One of my favorite experiences going through seminary and then even now into priesthood is the way people write to you. I think the reason I say this is because the best letters that you can ever get are letters from students and letters from kids. So I'm wondering, like, what's the best advice you've gotten from a kid in a letter? Or maybe the best observation from something very funny or something that you got from a letter in it?
Yeah, so Father's referring to, it happens, every seminarian gets like just a packet of letters from the second grade class at St. Tim's, or...
It is the ultimate.
It's beautiful.
It's the ultimate. If you are a teacher and you don't know what to do, have your kids just for vocations write letters to seminarians.
Yeah, so, and it happens in a lot of different dioceses, and so guys will just get a package of letters, and it's fun to go through those, and they're always so sweet, and, Dear Deacon Peter Clem, what is your name? So
yeah, right.
Well, you kind of covered that in the first one, yeah. So then there's also just some really genuine prayers that are really beautiful. I got one a couple years ago actually from a high schooler, and I totally did not remember this teen at first, and then I thought about it for a second. But she was like, "I met you a couple years ago at a work camp thing, and we talked about the rosary, and it really meant a lot. Thank you so much, praying for you." And I was like, oh, wow. And I'm like trying to rack my brain. Who is this person? And I did remember who it was, but it's really powerful and moving just to receive a lot of prayers. And I'm so grateful. I mean, those are always essential. And the prayers from, God's little ones, those are the most precious prayers.
They're the best.
They're the best. So
They are.
They are
so cute.
And it's so funny because it really is, especially for little kids. It's always the perfect balance between something incredibly insightful that you're like, wow, you're 6 and you know this better than I do.
Yeah.
And then also like reading something that just absolutely makes you laugh your butt off. Like it's so funny.
I had one kid explain to me the rules of bump frisbee. It's a game that he invented, and he drew pictures, and there's absolutely nothing in there about prayer or about, who are you or what is seminary like, and it's just buried in the midst of all these other cards that are, what's your favorite sport? What's your favorite, hobby?
I think one of my all-time favorites was a kid that wrote, "Dear Mr. Bresnahan, priest, priest." They thought priest was the title as opposed to just calling Dear Father Bresnahan, and they said, "I pray every day." Except it was spelled Prey.
Ooh.
So and it had a picture of a stick. It had a picture of a stick figure. And boy, friends, if you're listening to this, I just want you to imagine a stick figure of somebody kneeling, but like you're not really quite sure if they're kneeling or if they're like, they have their hands up like a praying mantis, and they're going. Like, it was absolutely hilarious. So I've always kept those kinds of things. They just say some of the funniest. They say some of the funniest stuff.
Yeah.
Father, do you have any best or funniest moments from Deacon Peter's year here at Nativity?
Oh, I mean, see, we've had so many good moments, but I think we were doing something. It was like a fireside chat type thing for you.
Yes.
And like we were just goofing off, I guess. And like our faces, we were just like pressing our faces up close to the camera to see like, I don't know what it is.
It was some kind of mic tests.
That's what it was.
We could be heard.
Yeah, we were testing and seen. So poor Mary Castellano has these pictures of us, just our face just engulfing the computer screen.
It was like the fishbowl effect. It was they were so funny. They're like little kids going up to a camera and like ooh. Best. I took that clip and I sent it around to the staff, and all the ladies just loved it. And then I took a screenshot of you, Father Bresnahan, of your face, just like, one eye is bigger and it's your cheek and your nose right up against it.
It really did look like I was pressed up against the glass of the camera.
Did I tape it to your chair?
Yeah. So I walked in and saw that picture and I thought somebody was sitting in the chair because it was just such a huge, like, life-size picture of our face. So
that was pretty good. Do you want to know what my favorite memory was?
Oh, sure.
So last summer we also got a brand new director of youth ministry, Rebecca Judge, and one of the things that she had to do was go out to the shed, and I'm glad you barely remember this, but so in the shed she found 2 Hulk hands. But they were both left hands or right. I can't remember. They weren't like one of each. Our previous director of youth ministry had 2 sets of Hulk hands. They might have been for a 1-act show or theater. And so we only found like left hands. And so I brought them in because knowing that you're a huge Marvel fan and a big superhero fan, I was like, oh, I think Deacon will appreciate this. So I just kind of left them just sitting in the office. And then just out of the blue, we started thumb wrestling with them. Oh. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
and it was really funny because they were like really, the thumb was really stiff, and it took it was like really challenging.
Like a thick foam finger.
Yeah. Like a huge foam hand. And one of our staff members walked by to ask us ask me, I think, a serious question. Looked at these 2 adults thumb wrestling with Hulk hands, shook his head, and walked away. This is one of my favorite moments. Oh, it was so great.
I think all 3 of us were here because I think it got put on the Instagram, but I think it was Father Bresnahan's first days to visit here.
Yeah, it was like a week.
I had just gotten back from Disney World, and I brought a lightsaber that I built down there. And there's a video of all the staff members oohing and awing at this lightsaber, and then Father Bresnahan shows up and is like, "Is this what happens at this parish?" It was like your first day here, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what you said?
No, I don't remember.
You said, "Is this what they're giving the deacons these days?"
That's what it was. That was good. Is this what they're giving the deacons these days?
That was so providential because we still had Father Vaccaro. It was maybe a week before he was leaving, and you were coming in to just chat with Father, I guess. And so
we're working on the transition and the
right.
Yeah.
And you walked in at the perfect moment. But what people didn't see in that video, I have to share this, is so funny. So that video clip, I'm pretty sure only has you showing us the lightsaber as it's lit up.
Yes.
You know, the shoom, whatever. I can't make the sound of a light. And we're all, oohing and awing at how heavy it was and, oh, it's so authentic. And you're like, it's not a toy. It doesn't feel like a toy. But like 45 minutes before, you were having trouble getting it to turn on.
Oh, yeah. We had to find a screwdriver that was small enough to fix the battery pack or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was quite hard to do.
It was an ordeal. And I remember filming almost the entire thing because I was waiting for it to turn on. I didn't want to miss that moment. And so first you tried it. It did work. Then I'm pretty sure Shannon Murphy comes over from the school, takes a look at it, can't get it to work. You hand it over to Father Vaccaro. He's trying it. It doesn't get to work. And then we called one of our maintenance guys, Antonio, over to fix a lightsaber.
It's like a full-time, literally a full-time maintenance guy dedicated to making sure that our church is up and running, and we needed him for a lightsaber.
How appropriate on Star Wars Day, right?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Love it. Okay, so we have one question that we ask everybody always, and this is obviously different for you now, given your new status and stature, right? But growing up and before you became a deacon, where was your seat in the church? Which pew was yours, and why?
With my family, growing up, we always sat in like the second or third row, like front row.
Okay.
But being in seminary and when I like just going to the church to just pray, I always love the absolute last pew. And usually like in a corner. And in the seminary especially, I sit in the balcony if I can for evening prayer at least. I love sitting on edge seats. In the back corner.
Are you the kind of person that, like, if it's like a crowded mass, but you got there early and you took the edge seat, you like get up to let other people go inside so you can keep the edge?
It depends.
Okay.
So the reason why is I do love seeing the people of God praying, and I like to be in the back and just kind of be observant and see all of it. Now I get to sit in the very front, and I get to face all the people of God, so I still get a seat. It's just the opposite corner, if you will.
That's true. And you see everybody.
Yeah.
Like, that's the best part. Like, people think they're in the back hiding. Like, you're like, I saw you come in.
A little warning.
We can't say anything because it's like, that's a little awkward when you're in the back and he's just, hey, good to see you.
Yeah, no, would never shame somebody like that.
Never, not a bit.
Because I was that person who sat in the back corner.
Right. That's amazing.
See, you can relate to the people.
Exactly. I can relate to the
people.
See? Perfect.
I'm listening.
I love it. I love it. Do you have any shout outs, Deacon?
Oh, gosh. I mean, it's been a wonderful year. I just want to shout out the whole parish. Specific shout out? I don't know. Shout out to you all.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get shouted out on your own podcast, but thanks for having me.
We don't.
So shout out to Mary Castellano and Father Ed Bresnahan.
Oh, thank you.
Shucks. Just fantastic.
You know who I was actually going to shout out, but I didn't run this by you. I didn't know if it would be weird. So I don't know if in this diocese people make a really big deal of like thanking the parents of a seminarian or a deacon or priest, but like shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Clem for doing a great job raising you in the faith and being so supportive.
Oh, no,
I assume supportive, right? Of your
very,
vocation.
Very
and that's such a huge blessing. Probably because I was just having a conversation with my mom yesterday about how hard it can be sometimes for a mother to kind of give her son over to the priesthood. So that's why it's on my mind. But I didn't know if that would be weird.
No, not at all. My mom or dad are number one supporters and fans. And from the day one, when I told them, it's a fun story. If I have time to
Sure,
share.
yeah.
Sure.
So when I came off the retreat where I felt like I wanted to be called to be a priest, and I told my mom, she immediately just shouted, "Woohoo! One-way ticket to heaven!"
Oh.
And at the same time, my dad was deployed in Kuwait at the time, and so we Skyped him, and on the Skype, it was like, how was the retreat? You're not going to do something crazy like be a priest, are you? And my mom's like, right on the nose. And so they were very supportive. And all my siblings, it was a really blessing.
Nice.
So,
That's
I think
always helpful.
the second most popular person at ordination is your mom.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like people will line up for first blessings and they'll receive your first blessing. It'll be an amazing moment. And then like a gaggle of people will go over to your mom and just ask like, what happened? How did you do it?
I'll make sure to get my mom a line, right next to my line.
I think my mom had the second longest line. There was me, and then there was my mom, and everybody wanted to ask her questions, and they wanted to talk to her and find out just like everything. Like they wanted to meet the mom who raised the boy who became a priest. It's a beautiful moment. Yeah. Treasure those moments. It's just such a powerful weekend. Friday getting your family coming into town, getting off a retreat. Saturday first, ordination day, and visiting all your loved ones and everything, and then Sunday the first time you get to celebrate a mass. Usually you'll be at your home parish, I think.
Yeah, I'll be at All Saints and Manassas on June 5th at the 11:30 a.m. mass.
How about that?
Main celebrant for that, which is very exciting. It's a big church, lots of people can come.
Do you have the date for when you're going to do your first mass here at Nativity?
Yes, June 19th.
Okay.
Sunday, June 19th, I'll be at Nativity and celebrate the 11 a.m. mass.
Nice. So you're all formally invited.
All very time-based if you're listening to this after this day.
Yeah,
exactly. In the year 2022.
Yeah.
Well, we're grateful for your presence, Deacon. We've been very blessed to have you, obviously, on the show. Obviously, just an amazing, I can't wait to have you as a brother priest. And really just looking forward to this. This is a good time of joy. This is a good thing. So I don't know if you guys got that cue from our from the vibe at our podcast, but we are excited. We've loved having Deacon Clem, and we're grateful for that. We're also grateful for you, faithful listeners. We love all of you, and we're praying for you. If you want information on vocations, whether it's priesthood, religious life, or anything, you can always feel free to contact us. We know exactly how to point you in the right direction and move you and help you discern what God's will in your life is. And with that, Mary, it's been a blessing, hasn't it?
It has.
All right.
Awesome.
We're glad to have you, Deacon.
Thank you,
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you, guys, and God bless you. Have a great day.